Poland has officially requested approval from Berlin to send some of its German-made Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Authorities in Kyiv say that they urgently need heavy armour to push back the Russian forces and retake control of territory they've seized. The call for modern battle tanks has dominated recent meetings of Ukraine's allies, but so far only the UK has made a firm commitment to send 14 Challenger tanks to the front line. A number of other NATO countries have expressed their willingness to donate Leopard tanks to Ukraine, but they need the approval of Berlin. And that, according to the most senior general in the army, is purely a political decision. Well, we can speak now to the Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, who joins us. Prime Minister, have you requested approval from Germany? Have they replied yet?
Yes, we have requested the approval from Germany to send Leopard tanks. We are now in the process of also building, let's call it a coalition of willing countries willing to support Ukraine at this juncture in this very critical moment of time. This is a very serious matter because, as we remember, a couple of months ago, the Kremlin ordered conscript process to start, and now the soldiers are being trained with the aim to attack Ukraine yet again from 2 or 3 different directions, because the Belarusian direction of attack may not be excluded. This is why an urgent move here is so important, and this is why we talked to our German partners to not procrastinate, not to delay, but just to take brave decisions and join the coalition of countries who want to send modern tanks, Leopard tanks, to Ukraine.
Prime Minister, as you say, you're saying that the Germans are delaying, that they're dodging. If you do not get the decision that you want, if they do not approve the sending of these tanks, what kind of deadline are you giving them, and will you just go it alone?
We will do this no matter what the decision is going to be, but we want to go along the procedures which are requested of us, and this is why we will be waiting for next couple of days, 1-2 weeks, for the official reply. Having said that, I am in contact with prime ministers and presidents of other EU countries, NATO countries, to help Ukraine immediately, because Ukraine cannot afford to be left alone by the European Union. We have to collectively support Ukraine because this is a very serious matter, what is going on there.
So am I right in understanding that you would give Germany 1 to 2 weeks in order to come back with a decision?
Yes, as I said, we'll give them 1 to 2 weeks. I hope this reply can come as quickly as possible. Well, Germany played a key role in building up the huge Russian funds for this war by buying Russian gas, trading with Russia big time. And now a special responsibility is on German shoulders, and we do expect their contribution. We expect quick decisions. We expect more openness towards Ukrainian needs. It is now that the offensive by the Russian army may be gathering, and we have to counteract it.
So 1 or 2 weeks is actually quite a long time. Poland has the capabilities, has the spare parts, has the abilities to send these Leopard 2 tanks right now. Why delay?
We have sent already the biggest number of tanks from all the countries of NATO, 250 tanks. On top of those tanks, we are going to send very quickly a set of modern tanks, probably around 50 to 60 new tanks. What we talk about now, Madam, we talk about 14 tanks, Leopard tanks. So this is on top of what we have already sent. And now what would be the most important is to build a coalition of countries, so that this is not only the 14 Leopard tanks which we can send to Ukraine. They require, the Ukrainian soldiers require some training, of course, and this always takes a couple of weeks. But also other countries, in particular Germany, they have 350 Leopard tanks operational and 200 Leopard tanks in stores. Why to keep them in stores? Even German company Rheinmetall said officially that they are going to send, they would be able to send more than 100 Leopard tanks. These are the numbers which we talk about and which are needed in Ukraine immediately.
You've called for the European Union to reimburse you, to compensate Poland for the sending of these tanks. Is that the right port of call, given that you have these tanks? You could potentially send them. Why request EU compensation for this, reimbursement?
We have sent a significant number of our weapons, different Agaptas, different tanks and munition and so on. And I know that there are special funds within the European Union budget which do compensate some countries who are active in sending their weapon. First and foremost, what is most important for us is any kind of gap filler, and this gap filler is being bought from our budget in Korea and in the United States. These are the Abrams tanks and K2 Korean tanks. So we are now taking care of all the needs of our army. Most likely, Poland 2023 will be the #1 country in terms of spending money on military equipment, on defense expenditures from all the NATO countries, of course, in relative to GDP. It will be 4 percentage points or even more to GDP. Germany spends only 1.2, 1.3% of their GDP, and we urge them to spend more because this is our collective security, collective defense.
And what do you say to those who worry about the sending of these tanks as it's being seen as an escalation? We know that the polls in Germany, in terms of how many German people view this as an escalation, they're worried about this escalating. What's your reply to people who fear that this kind of action would be seen as an escalation?
Let me put it this way. Poland and the free world cannot afford not to send Leopard tanks and not to send modern weapons to Ukraine, because the Kremlin and the Russians, whom we know very, very well, not only from our history, but they are our neighbors for more than 1,000 years, and we know their recent behavior, and we know how they act. The minute they attacked Georgia, they looked for another prey. The minute they attacked Ukraine, they looked for another face to attack Ukraine. And after the Crimean Peninsula, they have attacked Ukraine in 2022. And this is why we know very well that insatiable appetite of Russia to dominate, to conquer other countries is the true and sole danger, huge jeopardy for the security, stability, and peace in Europe. But I also believe that this war is important for the whole of our world. So the decisive and quick reaction of the free world, including the European Union, is critically important at this juncture.
Prime Minister, how important is it that the UK is sending Challenger tanks? It is so far the only country that has committed to sending tanks.
But it is very important. As I said 5 minutes ago, we would have sent 250 of our tanks, and we are just about to send 50 to 60 more of our tanks. And on top of those, we are sending 14 tanks, Leopard tanks. It's important that the United Kingdom is sending their Challenger tanks because it's a clear example to France and to Germany that this move is possible, and this is our common matter. This is raison d'être of the whole of NATO. So I'm very pleased that Prime Minister Sunak took this decision, and it only confirms that we work hand in glove with the United Kingdom to fend off this jeopardy from the east.
Prime Minister, are you frustrated that the military aid that is going towards Ukraine, there are allegations that some Ukrainian officials are spending it in ways that is not right, is not correct? We've seen President Zelensky shake up his top authorities and get rid of a number of them due to allegations of corruption. Does that frustrate you?
Such a complicated process of delivery hub, logistic hub, which we have organized, and then the delivery of all the weapons and equipment and humanitarian aid to fighting Ukraine, fighting with Russia is really a very sophisticated process, including many people. So on the one hand, of course I'm frustrated that some of the goods delivered to Ukraine are not used in an appropriate way. On the other hand, I look realistically at what is happening in Ukraine, and I know that President Zelensky, Prime Minister Shmyhal and his cabinet are doing their best to avoid any type of corruption. Corruption happens everywhere, and we know that in the time of war, all sorts of different corruption and inappropriate behavior and irregularities and misfinancings and so on happen, but we should be over and above this.
Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for speaking to the BBC.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.